Good morning, everybody. Today is December 21st, Friday, special day for some reason. And
I am ready. Go ahead.
and so we're going to have Bob Roos.
That's fine.
Bob, take it away. Bob's going to talk about Comm in WinDev.
I just want to know how Bob feels about being the last person on Earth.
Bob, he can't hear us.
Yeah.
You're
All
on,
right.
Bob.
Well, well, yes. The heck, I can't hear you. Okay. Comm. That's Microsoft's shortcut for Component Object Module. Does everybody know that? The thing that I needed to do with Comm was to talk to QuickBooks. There was a way to do it using .Net and interop and all of that, and I could sort of get there, but I couldn't get everything I needed. So I started exploring Comm. And the thing that I found most frustrating about Comm was the lack of documentation for anything that wasn't Microsoft. QuickBooks provided examples in C, which was no help to me, or little help, I should say, and examples in Visual Basic, which was also little help. So it was very frustrating, you know, and WinDev has very little to say about Comm. So it's like, how do you get a handle on this thing? So I started reading up on the internet to learn everything that I could about Comm, and one of the things that I came across was that there's a thing called OLI Comm Object Viewer, and that exposes some of the stuff that's inside the Comm module. And I had found a similar program for Power Basic users, and I ran that, and I could see inside, but it was all basic oriented, not anything that was really helpful to me. So in my adventures, then they said to get the OLI viewer, you need to download the Microsoft Windows 7 SDK, and that's 1.3 gigabytes. So I have a friend download that for me and send it to me, and I installed it, and sure enough, there is in there a thing called OLI Viewer, OLI View, and this is on the screen here now. This
Bob, can you give us that link?
To look at the type libraries. That's what we needed, and then you go down to QuickBooks. You can see there's quite a few. And what I needed was QB XLM-RP2. The link for OLI for the SDK, I don't have it. It's easy enough to find, I think. I did come up with another link that, let's see if this looks like it, for maybe just only the OLI view. I'll go over that in a little bit. Just ignore my phone. This is, okay, this is the downloader, only 493K. But this is the program, SDK for Windows 7 and .NET Framework. Somewhere here. Yeah, 2.5 gigabytes of free space. Yeah, it takes a lot, but anyway, let's come back to this if we can, and I'll we'll look at it then, because I want to keep on going on the comm stuff. This is the module that I'm interested in. Your mileage for other programs and things will definitely vary, but for purposes of this webinar, this is the one that I'm going to talk about. I think they're all pretty similar. So when you select the interface that you're looking for, you can right-click and view it. Okay, and this is the good stuff. Okay, and maybe what I ought to do here is bring up the help from WinDev. Kill this, go away there. And let's look at a couple of WinDev things because index at the help. There are only three things in WinDev that will talk to Comm, and they all start with Comm. What is it? Comm create interface. Oh, no, instance. All right, they all sound alike. Comm create instance. Okay. And Comm create instance takes two of these obnoxious strings. And it's like, okay, how do you find out what these silly strings are? This is the class, and this is the particular interface that it wants. So your comm object name, and then, oops, this is comm call method. Sorry, I got the wrong one. Create instance is what I wanted to show the syntax on. Okay, the class identifier and the interface identifier. So how do you find out these things? And that was my first challenge. I've got vague documentation that says that whatever this side of the equation is what I need to put in there, but how to set it up in WinDev. And that's when I went to OliView, and here is the request processor class. And this is the third version of the library. And the thing about Comm is that it's absolutely, one of their absolute rules is that once you publish it, you cannot change it. So in order to change a particular interface, you have to have a new level of a new interface. You can't revise the old interface, which is kind of good because then people that are using the old interface can continue to use it. And so they had come out with request processor 3 and then request processor 4 and request processor 5, and the documentation and everything kind of refers to RP4, but I found out there is an RP5, and so I've tried it and it works. But anyway, my point of all of this is that here is the big long number that you need to put into the first half of create interface. The second number that goes into that is then the interface for RP5, and that's this number. And that will give you then the comm create instance. And I've put together a little PDF file here that talks about, that shows this with some notes, and this can be available to anybody that wants to have it. So this is the module, the DLL module that I'm referring to. Here is the RP3, and this is the class. This is the left half of that double thing. So here's comm create instance, and you take this whole number and this whole number. And these can be variables, by the way. They don't have to have this character string. So maybe someday I'll get ambitious and write a little program that will convert this format here into names, variable names for WinDev. Now, I was fortunate, I guess, in that the Visual Basic program made all of the Visual Basic defines, and so I took and edited that and came up with obnoxious names. I never would have used them, but you know, it was easier than my trying to type this stuff out and set it all up myself. So, coming back to here, then that's how you create or instantiate the Comm connection. And then the next thing you have to do is to use it. And you use it by Comm call method. And here you put the XXX, whatever. When you do a create instance, you get a handle. Okay, that handle then becomes the first operand of Comm call method. And then you have a method number. So you don't, in Comm, you don't actually call by name, you call by number. So it's the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever. And this drove me absolutely crazy because I kept calling, you know, method 1, method 15, whatever it was, and I get incorrect number of parameters every time I did it, no matter what I did. And it was just driving me bananas. And I finally found that in Comm, the inheritance process actually changes these method numbers. And there are 6 methods that are hidden. So these are the lower, these are, you know, like I kept trying to call this one here, process request number 1. And it says, nope, can't do that. So someplace down here, they have the inheritance. I should make this a little smaller. Actually, when I switch to the bigger resolution screen, someplace in here is the inheritance. Maybe it's all the way down at the bottom. No. Anyway, I have some links here. Well, phooey. There are 6 methods anyway that are inherited. And the problem is that when I was trying to do this, the help online for WinDev was down. And so I couldn't do, the only thing I had was the local help. And guess what? The example that made all the difference in the world after doing all of this study and everything, the example that made everything clear to me was only available online. And I had that where Microsoft Online Document. What the heck? Online example, Comm query interface example. Okay, I guess I don't have it up. Let's go get that because that is really key. I'm typing off ANTRFACE WinDev. I'll bring it on here in just a second. Comm query interface example, where are you? There's a lot of pieces to this thing, and they all had to kind of come together all of a sudden, and it's like, okay, it makes sense now. It's just, you know, I was reading and reading and reading, and finally, example, here we go. Yes. Okay. This is the online example for Comm query interface, which I figured I didn't need. So I kind of ignored it. and that was exactly the wrong thing to do. Because down here, they talk about the iDispatch method, okay? And the iDispatch method and the iUnknown method are two things that are built into all Comm interfaces. And they are inherited, and you have to skip around them because the method numbers are added to it. And that's the part that I didn't know, is that you have to add the silly offset. Like here you can see they take the dispatch method number and then add whatever the method number for, like in this particular one, bring to front is method number 1. So it's one more than the iDispatch method number. But anyway, what I found the magic number for me was 6. And using an offset of 6, I could get to everything that I needed. And that's what this +6 means. So you take whatever method number was shown in the OliView type library definition and add 6 to it, and then the parameters, and you could talk away. It worked beautifully after that. It was quite a struggle though to get it. Now, when I talked about inheritance before, here this is a line that defines the interface 5, and it inherits the interface 4. And then there's a method number hex 11, that's hexadecimal, and so 17. And then the help string, I guess, is the only identifier as to what. I hope people are hearing me. I'm not.
Oh, Bob, you're fine. Is
somebody some
there's
feedback?
just a lag, so
Hello?
we're muted out.
Anybody?
So, no, you're recorded and you're being heard.
Oh, we are there. Okay. Okay, that's cool. I just don't want to be talking. Okay, cool. I just didn't want to be talking for half an hour. Okay. So then, so in order to talk to these different methods, you have your the instance that you created, and then the method number that you want to talk to, offset by whatever's been previously inherited, and then the various parameters. And recording the parameters is kind of a fun thing. This is a B string, which is a null terminated Unicode string. And it has a special feature in that the address of the beginning of it is actually points to the 3rd byte. The first 2 bytes are length code for that string. And I don't know, it's a C thing or something, but anyway, I didn't have to worry about it too much. Let's see. So you call the method, and in this case, then there is no parameter. There's no input parameter. This has only one output parameter, and the outputs are not. It's not output equals something. It's H result equals something, and the last parameter or the output, anything in the outputs goes on the end. There's another better example here. Open connection, okay? This has 3 input parameters, and that's all. And then if the connection was successfully opened, the H result is 0. So, and you code the application ID as a Unicode string, and in WinDev, you just put the address in. The string in the or the variable name of the string in the list, application name, and then the connection type. Let's see. This one here has 2 input parameters and 1 output area. And then this is the address of the output area. And that, I guess, is enough general talk about this, looking at it, studying the way that the comm all fits together, and just how the pieces fit together, and that's what you got to figure out. And I think once you get an understanding of how the pieces fit together, it's not too bad to actually put together the calls, and that's all relatively simple, really. Let's see. So let's switch to an actual program. I guess I'll show you the code that I have for open a project, pinned projects, EasyQB. Take a second here to open this up. Oh dear, this is going to be a problem. It all shows up on the other monitor. Well, let's see what I can do. Yep. This is going to be really, really crazy. Procedures, global procedures, the work processor. Can I get this? Yeah, it's back there. Oh, great. Now I can't even get it back. And one of the problems that I've been having, well, we can do it this way. One of the problems I have with the WinDev IDE and the screens that I have set up is these guys, even though they say they can be resized, they won't go any place except right there. I can't move them. I can't do anything with them. And so, all right. Comm create instance. This is the first thing that you got to do. Okay, so you set up in the definition for this class, RP2 property or member is set up as a dynamic object. Let's see if I can find that. Easy Comm WL. Yeah, this should work. So, boy. No. Okay, no, I need to look at the class definition, which is Project Explorer here, 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 members, my RP2. Put this away. Okay, so RP2 is a dynamic comm object. And then, God, I apologize for this. I had no idea that I was going to run into this kind of snafu. Procedures, work proc. Okay, so Comm create instance, and this is a dynamic comm object, and then it doesn't have to be a dynamic comm object. If you didn't have it in a class, you could just instantiate it as is the comm object, and then you could, do the create instance. And these are the names, like I said before, of the these are the names that were created by the the Power Basic type library parser. So I just used them, and you could use whatever you want. So if, and in my case, because I have 3 different levels of request processor, I decided to see, because I don't know what my particular customer has in terms of what instance or what level of QuickBooks they have installed. So if there was an error, and that's how you check. You do the Comm create instance, and then if there was an error, then error occurred will be true, and then I try to create a different note the error, and then go on and try to create another instance at a different interface level, and then still at another interface level, and if that doesn't make it, then tough luck. This project actually has 2 different Comm interfaces that are needed, and one is authorization, and the other is the request processor. So I have to create instances for both of them. And once that's done, then we're ready to begin actually trying to use this stuff. And the first thing that you have to do in talking with QuickBooks is you have to open a connection. So this procedure processes all of the QuickBooks stuff. I put it all in one place. QuickBooks being very sensitive, and it has to run only in the main thread. It will not run, you cannot open a thread and then run in it. It refuses to run, it just hangs. So I had to kind of work on that, and that's a whole different thing, and maybe a subject of another webinar sometime, how to do threading and all of that. But anyway, first thing I want to do is I want to open a connection. And there are 2 choices depending on which interface level I have. And the user specifies the connection level. So open connection 2, and then there are a couple of parameters to that. And let's get this out of the way, maybe you can see. Okay, so this is the method number, and you see it's 21. Well, on the other sheet it was 15. Or Fox, and so we have to add the 6 to it. The application ID, the application name, and the connection type parameters. Okay. And if that all worked, you get an H result of 0. And this is a procedure just to check the H result and display an error message if it didn't work. Then, after the connection is open, I wanted to get the versioning information about it, so just calling different methods. Now, here's an example of using an address. This method, get major version, puts the major version into the short integer at this address. And so I wanted it to go into the class member called major version, so I supply the address. That's what the ampersand does. It says, hey, put the address here. And QuickBooks happily puts the QuickBooks Comm puts the address, these different numbers, into these variables for me. And, okay, now, what happens if something dreadful goes wrong and the thing blows up? Well, you don't want your users seeing explosion messages. You want to trap it. And that's when exception in comes in. This is a WinDev construction. And whatever code you put inside of this thing gets trapped, and control is immediately given to the do part of this this when thing. And so if something goes wrong in here, then control is transferred to here, and I flag it and display the full error results. And this full error details, that's everything when you when you get a WinDev exception, you get the screen and it has two parts. The upper part, which gives a little brief thing, and then the lower part, which gives you all of the details. And that's, the bottom part is error full details. So I save all of that information. The interesting thing was, and the thing that drove me to having to use Comm, was that when I was using the .Net interop interface for this whole thing, I'd get an exception. They'd tell me at the top what the H result was, but there was no way that it was listed down here in these error full details. And tech support couldn't tell me how to get it. They said, well, ask Microsoft. I said, yeah, right. Microsoft is going to tell me. Intuit won't talk to you. If you're using C or Visual Basic, they seem to know what you're talking about. Any other language, and they say, gee, we don't use that language. We don't know how to do that, and we don't really care, it seems. So I was pretty much on my own. And that's when I decided, okay, the Comm is all pretty well documented. That's the route that I'm going to go then. And I very nicely get the H result. And if it's 0, that's fine. The other interesting thing is that H result is listed in the QuickBooks documentation as hexadecimal codes, which is and H result is an integer, and so it's just a large negative number. So in the check error here, I dump it out by using the int2 hex a, and that's pretty slick. I love WinDev for all of the nifty little built-in functions that we didn't have in Clarion. You had to write your own dump it in hex routine in Clarion, and so I queue up the error message and display it if they want to see it. And that's kind of it, really. You just do the methods and get the answers back and display them to the users as however you want to do it. It really, once I got enough information together about Comm and Comm processing and everything, it really wasn't that difficult. There was one other frustration that I had. Let me find versioning. Yes. The version is a array. Let's go back to here and see versions. I want to show you how it was defined here. File mode, versions for subscription. Well, versions for connection is what I want for session. Okay, you give it the ticket number, which is a handle that you get when you begin the session with QuickBooks. And then it says return value is a safe array of B strings. The address of a safe array of B strings. And it's like, okay, what does this look like? So I Googled safe array and I found some references as to the structure of all of that and everything, but it was just like, how does this fit together? How can I see storage? There's no way, there's no command, there was no peek or poke in WinDev or anything, and it's like, how can I find out what storage looks like? And that's when I sent off a thing to technical support, and I also asked the question, I think, on the group, and I don't remember who got back to me first, but the key to looking at storage is something called transfer. And transfer goes, this is the receiving address, this is the sending address, and this is the length. And it just picks up storage and moves it. So I wrote this little routine, actually not this, well, I wrote this routine too, which will go get a safe array. I posted also on the MySnip group, and somebody there helped me out with a format for the safe array. And using that and this processing, it's a pointer to a pointer to a pointer kind of a thing. Working my way through it, I was able to actually come up with the strings and put them into the array that, so this get safe array, you give it the address that Microsoft, or that the Comm returned, and this is the array that you want it to go into. And it worked. Surprise, surprise. Okay, so what I wanted to show, the other thing was a nifty little routine that I wrote, because it's like, okay, how I need to look at storage. I need to see what's going on. And I Googled, again, you know, looking at storage, how do you do this or whatever, and there was a program called API Interface. And I never could get it to work right for me, except for one thing, and that is you could type any address. You could hook it up to a module, and I'd hook it up to the test module, the WinDev test, and then you could type in a storage address, and it would display that storage. And that's how I could see then how the pointers were relating to unscramble the safe array and everything. So I wrote a little routine called Hex Dump. Let's see how to find that. That is, it's just a procedure. Yeah, there it is. Okay. And basically you give it the address that you want to start dumping at, a length, and whether or not to display the ASCII characters. This address can either be in a address form, in which case you must give it a length, or you can put a WinDev variable in there, and then the length of that variable is the actual address that it starts with. So if the length is 0, then take the address of the area, the address of the parameter, and figure out the length. And I did this arithmetic so things come out looking nice. And anyway, it uses the transfer to bring the storage in, and then does buffer to hex A, and cleans it up and displays it. It's kind of cool. So that's kind of what I had in mind for talking about. If there's any questions or anything, it's probably clear as mud. Comm is if you can imagine, a complicated sort of thing, and you just get immersed in it, and then finally it's like, oh, okay, I see all the pieces. Just a second. Oh, no, I didn't get it ready. Huh. I'll email to you.
Andy,
Customer
Jack,
picking up a computer, and I didn't have the bill ready.
Do you have any?
I had one thing, and I got interrupted.
So that's it.
Maybe something, but Bob, when you were saying that the interfaces were numbered differently, I didn't quite catch how you figured that out and what they really were numbered as.
Okay. The interfaces in the DLL are based on what whoever wrote the Comm part of that, set up. So they start with 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The problem is that all Comm things apparently automatically inherit something called iDispatch and iUnknown. And when you're actually numbering off the methods, you have to add the offset for iDispatch and iUnknown. And that for me was 6, that offset. So there are 6 interfaces, 6 methods that are built into Comm that don't show up when you do the OLE view. And you have to, so if you want the first one that shows up in OLE view, you got to add 6 to it. And the example code for the CommQ interface, let's see, that was here. This was my first clue that you had to do this offsetting. So they did it backwards. I mean, I would have, oh gosh. See, here's the ID 1, and I would have assigned that a name, which actually is what they're doing. Okay, I did these things by constants, and they're doing them by integers. But they assign the interface method call 1 as.
Yeah, I guess I'm just not clear how you figured out it was 6 and how you saw the hidden method.
Their number 1 plus the iDispatch method number, which in my case was 6. So, see here, oh, here it is, the nDispatch method number already. Okay. So that, you know, that was, once I tumbled onto this, then everything else fell into place. This was the missing piece, if you will. And I started to reading about Comm and everything, and inheritance, and I mean, these were all brand new terms to me. So, you know, it finally all gelled together. And it's like, oh, okay. I see now what I need to do, and once I plugged those right numbers in, it all fell into
Jack,
place.
did you
beautifully.
get your question
I still don't
answered?
see how you figured out the number 6.
Anything else? Okay. Right here on the screen, the dispatch method number, iDispatch, already has 7 methods in it. Okay, and they're numbered from 0 to 6. And all Comm inherits from iDispatch. And so the Comm numbers have to be offset by whatever they inherit. So when the Comm writer of the QuickBooks Comm, or whatever product you're using, writes it, they are writing it based on the first one being 1. Their first one being 1. But then they automatically inherited 7 other methods numbered 0 to 6. And so you have to offset to get to their method. You have to offset and by 6. Yeah, in this example,
okay.
This is the example code for Comm query interface, is what I'm looking at on the screen right here. And that example is only available online. It is not available in the local help, and I've asked tech support to make sure that it is put into there. And this is the most complete, the only complete example of how to communicate with a non-Windows Comm. And that's the key. The Windows Comms apparently don't have this inheritance built into them. And all the other examples just show, oh, you just take the method number and plug it in. But if it's a non-Windows Comm and it has this inheritance, then you have to deal with that. And you can tell whether it's got the inheritance or not from the OLE view. I just have to find where it says it inherits iDispatch. Here. Interface request processor 3 inherits from iDispatch. And this is why it has the offsets that are necessary. And you see 4 inherited from 3, and 5 inherited from 4.
Yeah, that helps. Thanks.
So that's how I came up with 6.
Not me. I'm too confused for words.
Okay. Anybody else?
No, I'm not into Comm as much, so, you know, yeah.
I'm sorry. You know, unless you really need to do this, that's what I mean. Yeah. You know, this is something that if you have to do it, I think this presentation, I hope this presentation will unscramble some of the stuff, and I'm certainly available to answer questions on specific comms and things. You know, happy to do that. Because I struggled. I mean, I struggled for a long time with this.
At the point where I need it, then watching this and maybe
just poof,
asking
all of
you
a
some
sudden,
questions
it's
might
like, oh,
take me through. But
okay, I see how it all fits
I'll let
together.
other people do the comms. Okay. So your QuickBooks interface stuff, how's that going? Is it moving along like you?
Really works pretty slick. I mean, I was amazed at how easily it went. Yeah. Yeah, it finally is. I mean, you know, I guess the thing about beating your head against the wall is it feels so good when you stop. I'm just working on cleaning up little or nitty things, and then I got to put it together as a product and document it. That's going to be, you know, a huge project in itself. But I'm talking to QuickBooks. I'm retrieving data from QuickBooks, and I love WinDev. I mean, it just, God, having done this project in Clarion and now doing it in WinDev, there's like no comparison. The program's much better, I think, in terms of features, in terms of the way it looks. You know, I'm excited, and I will.
Cool. Okay, thank you so much for spending this hour with us and
you know, give a presentation on it.
Clarifying
show
this,
everybody
and
what
at
it's
least
about.
documenting how people, when they're ready to do Comm, come here. So, if there's no other questions. Do you want me to post that too?
Yeah, and I've got.
I can
you know,
post
I can
that
put
too
this
if you want
PDF
to
file.
Skype it to me.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you
I've
guys.
got this PDF file.
We'll talk to you later.
Make that
Thanks, Mark.
Merry Christmas.
Yep, I'll send it to you.